everybody, and welcome to the Chimera Cast. And in this episode, we are reviewing a mod that came out August 24th, so we're a little bit late on the uptake, but that's okay. We're reviewing Gray.
An interesting mod, to be sure.
It's a horror mod that came out for Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and it's kind of, I've talked about this in a Let's Play I made of this, how I kind of classify into a different genre of horror, almost like a subclass, like a grunge horror, because there's like a lot of other mods that are like this, like Afraid of Monsters, Cry of Fear, all that kind of stuff. But we thought we'd start by reviewing, by splitting our review into categories of the mod, like story, etc., etc. So let's start on the story. Luke, what'd you think of the story?
I gave it a 6. It was a unique concept. I really, honestly enjoyed it. But I feel like they could have done a bit more with it.
Yeah, I feel like the whole mod, basically, I'm not going to spoil any of the ending stuff, which we have seen, and the whole concept is you're trying to get home, because your mom, I think, has like a secret to tell you or something, or she wants you to know something, but you've gone insane. So if you've played Afraid of Monsters, if you've played Cry of Fear, if you've played those kinds of games, you've played this in a way, right?
They're very, very similar.
Yeah, it's actually a fairly generic story. I felt like I've just played it like a million times before. Like, I was hoping that they'd take like a fresh spin on things, because I've played a bunch of games where you go insane. Suddenly you're in some, just like tiles are falling from the ceiling that have like your grandchildren's faces taped to them. They're splattering like watermelons on the pavement. I've had fun with that, you know, real life and in video games. But
well, obviously, I mean. But I do get kind of where you're coming from with the sort of grunge fear classification. It's more of a showing you disturbing things to get you freaked out.
And it worked for the first maybe 20 minutes, but we'll talk about that in the scare rating. So overall, I say the story was like, there wasn't too much involvement. The storytelling was really meh. So I gave it a 5 on story. Sorry.
Once again, I gave it a 6. So
yeah. So, you know, it was meh at best. We're gonna move on to gameplay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what we think of the gameplay first, then give our ratings probably. So what did you think of the gameplay?
No, I'm still kind of collecting my thoughts on it. What's your opinion?
So I'll say this, that obviously it's kind of bash and whacker style thing, but like beyond that, the enemies in the game were really, really hard to kill, or they were put in situations where it's very frustrating for the player to kill them. Like, you turn a corner and one of those flying knife guys is there, just like boom, and it's not scary at all, which I think was the purpose. But since it's right there behind the corner, you didn't see it coming, you're just dead, and you're like, oh, now I have to watch around that corner. And even then, you have like so little health or so little ammo that it's really, really hard to kill them.
So the gameplay almost feels like a hindrance.
Yeah, there's no... I mean, I don't want it to be like an action movie or anything. In fact, I would have liked if there was less enemies in this game, because, like, he did one of those things like in... I think Afraid of Monsters did this, where like the enemies are so common that they don't even become scary anymore.
So it's just like, oh, another enemy.
Yeah, so like I turned a corner, the flying knife guy goes and like floats across the room like he's in love with me, like some romance movie.
It's like, oh no.
Except for in this romance movie, there's butcher knives involved.
Isn't there in every romance movie?
Oh, well, behind the scenes, that's a different story.
Alright.
So, it is overly hard in some areas, not very balanced. The items weren't balanced, no health kits that much. So I gave it basically a 5. There's nothing special about it, but...
Yeah, I gave it about a 5 as well.
Yeah, oh, and I have to specify this. We're going on a scale of 1 to 10. So 5 is just sort of like average, you know?
Nothing new, but they didn't necessarily mess it up or anything.
Yeah, so that's that. Let's talk about... let's get the visuals out of the way, I guess. So... I thought for Half-Life 2 mod that the atmosphere is really, really, really good. Looks really nice, actually. Like the mapping, all the models. He did a lot of custom models.
It almost seemed kind of like pastel colored. I liked it.
Yeah, it was really like low on the color thing, which made it feel like really bleak and stuff and whatnot. So
I rather enjoyed that.
Yeah, the detail was really nice, I thought. Like, there's a lot of just small things around the map that I really liked.
The fog, the sort of...
The lighting. He did a really good job on the lighting. We're looking at a couple of pictures right now. Hopefully you will be too. But, yeah, so in terms of visuals, I gave it a 9. That's how high I went. Straight up.
I gave it an 8. So, the visuals in this were really, really impressive.
Yep. For Half-Life 2 mod, very, very, very well done, Ashkandii. Whee! Let's add just to screw with them, let's add a laugh track instead of a Alright, so let's go to the okay, yeah, scare level. Let's do the scare deal. So obviously it's a horror mod if you didn't pick up on that. Unless you actually bought into our romance movie thing.
So, and if you did, you probably shouldn't be on YouTube.
Yeah, in which case, get a library card. We need to talk about this scare level. So, what do you think of some of the scares that you've witnessed? You've played a lot of horror. I've introduced you to a lot of horror games.
I've played a lot of horror games. And basically, I classify scare into 2 different kind of things. There's the cheap jump out and freaks you out for a split second, which, if done right, is really good. And then there's the sort of psychological, you're constantly kind of getting freaked out. This game did a lot. It felt like it was trying to do a lot of both, but eventually the psychological got kind of mixed with the it jumps out at you sort of scare.
Yeah, so like there's this thing where Gray's going bonkers insane, and you'd think that that would freak you out psychologically, but it really doesn't. For some reason, like when you're transported into these different areas that like are all like hallways turned upside down and women are just hanging from the ceiling because someone's messed up in their mind. It's really like you just end up going through it and I'm just like, what the heck is going on here? It's not like I'm like, oh no. Like when
it feels like they should have done less momentary freak you out and a lot more leading up to just one really good one.
Yeah, like Amnesia style. Like
Amnesia was great.
After the 9001th freaking body bag hanging from the ceiling, I was like, enough's enough. I just wanted to like start using it as like a punching bag to get ready for the next enemies.
So
boom, pop, pop. Rocky style. But there was a couple of good moments. Like the lead up to the first scare was really good. Like before there was any enemies, I thought it was really good. And then once they started kind of just popping up, it became generic in a way.
It almost feels like some horror mods tried to do too much with combat.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need combat. Sometimes you need a little more than that. That doesn't make any sense. But
also, they had one pretty good scare. It was a chase scene.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
But
so at one part in the game, you're in a asylum or something. And you open the door and there's a guy with his head slamming on you or something. And they did a pretty good chase scene there, albeit I kind of messed it up the first 2 times. But I like that they kind of mixed it up. That was a good thing for the...
It was pretty good.
It broke it up a little bit. If they had more moments like that in the game to break up some of this combat crap, and
it would have been a lot nicer.
It would have been a lot nicer. So in terms of scare level, oh dang, we're still on scare level. I rated a 7.
I gave it a 6. So
nice, that's pretty good. So yeah, it was pretty good, but like.
What did you think of some of the puzzles?
The puzzles. There was like 1 or 2 in the game that were, actual kind of puzzles. The rest were just sort of like mini, like find key kind of or unlock power button, which are fine. Like they're filler puzzles, but nothing special about them.
They didn't feel like they were doing anything new or revolutionary with it.
Nah, and that's not a bad thing either. So
no,
like,
not at all.
Yeah, but nothing like really. It was the game. It's hard to explain. The game wasn't really like a challenge in any way, other than just trying to beat an enemy with your sliver of a health bar.
Right.
So like, the progression wasn't all that great. You didn't really feel like you're going anywhere. Like,
right.
so there wasn't too much rewarding feeling. And I feel bad for just bashing on this. I know most people think it's a really good game, but when you start nitpicking it, you can realize a couple of things here and there. So we're just pointing some of those out. We got the... Oh, sorry, go for it.
No, you're good. I think we should move on to compelling pretty quick here.
Yeah, let's do that. So, the compelling rating, if you could tell the audience what that is.
Compelling is... Do you feel like you want to see what happens next? Or is it sort of a...
Is it drawing you into the game?
Do you feel like you're in it? Or does it just feel like you're playing a game?
Or, and at that, even if it just feels like you're just like going along for the ride instead of like, you're like, ooh, I can't wait to see what happens with this story arc kind of deal. And what are some of the thoughts you had on that?
I don't know. The compelling was interesting because they didn't really do too much with making the story unique. I mean, obviously it's fairly unique, but it wasn't amazing or anything. And when you have so much combat, you don't feel super compelled to continue. It's like you're worried about the next enemy, not the next story point.
That's really good. Yeah, so the story ties in a lot to this rating, and there wasn't too many hooks for you to grab onto, I don't think.
No. The combat seemed like they were trying to make it one, but...
Yeah, that didn't really work out that great.
No.
At least in our eyes. Maybe a lot of you guys are kind of mad in the comments, but it's just our opinion.
No, everybody's entitled to their own. So,
yeah. I thought that, like, when it gets to the point where you're just, like, hallway after another hallway, wondering why you can't just get home yet, why is she, like, because your mom just screws with your head, like, you're right at the door to your apartment, at least I think you are, and then she takes you somewhere else, because the next 5 feet, she doesn't want you to go there yet. Apparently. So, like, when you're just like, ah, dang it, and I have to walk that 5 feet again after I fought the worst boss battle I've ever done in my life. It's intense, to say the least. So, compelling, I gave it a straight up 4.
I gave it a 4 too, so pretty equal there.
And, like, yeah, maybe you like the combat. Maybe you just want to play to kill things, but in which case, go for it. Why not? Yeah, go for it. If you like that kind of challenge, then go for it. But I really like just figuring out new things. Like, all of a sudden, my take on something goes a completely different direction.
What?
Yeah, when that happens, I'm like, oh, snap.
Something that gets revealed that you had no idea what was going on before. So
that's the kind of stuff I like. And this mod, you know, it's, while good in its own way, it didn't have that kind of emotional impact.
It was much more a sort of freak you out and let you have some combat. So
yeah, and
much more a grunge horror game, which I really, not a bad thing.
And it's popular for a reason. I can understand that.
I can understand why a lot of people like it, but I still feel like they could have done more with the story.
Alrighty. So, what is your final rating?
Overall score? I have to give it, like, I want to say 6.5. So
I give it a 6.87.
Cheater.
I wanted to be almost at 7, but a little below 6.5.
So, more or less, it was very... I don't know, it's nothing new or different, necessarily. The visuals really brought it up and everything, but I still feel like they could have done a bit more.
Yeah, and I'll do my final thought, or whatever. I guess the mod was... It was decent in its own way, but if... Yeah, like, if I had to, like, rank it up with other horror games I've played, like, even Cry of Fear, I even liked Afraid of Monsters more than this, and I didn't like Afraid of Monsters that much. So, I mean, you know, it was an okay mod. Let's just go with that. It was decent, and I can understand why everyone else likes it, but I was mildly okay with it, you know?
Right.
Pretty maso menos.
So if you want to see my friend Avery here get himself freaked out and kill some monsters...
Yeah, well, we can put the link to my Let's Play in the description if you're interested in that. Also, we have a email address, chimeracastfans@gmail.com. If you have a question, you can send it there. Also, but you can also comment in the comments and
any mods you want us to do, any questions you have.
Yeah, we might mention it on the next show. So if you got a question, post it in the comments. It's probably the easiest one. Just screw the email address. Throw it right out there. I don't like this email address deal. This Gmail crap. Also, you can follow me on Twitter @Dredile if you're interested. I don't know who would, but
the option's there.
The option is there. So, anything else to add? Or are we done?
No, I think we're done here. Thanks for taking your time, audience.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of Chimera Cast. Cue the music!
Just remember, don't sue McDonald's.